all of that was gold. I can't believe you missed all of the good stuff.
We talked about Rhodesia.
Yeah.
We talked about colonialism. Finishing schools. We've covered the whole thing.
I mean, now we're just going to talk about board games. It's going to be really lame. I'm so sorry.
Was objectifying me, my body, my clothing, my bones. But aside from that,
I mean, someone had to.
Yeah.
No one else was going to do it, so I had to step
No one
up.
else was going to do it. I was fishing for a while.
Oh, that feels really sad.
But I appreciate it.
No problems at all. Welcome to the Ancient Robot Games podcast. As always, I am Dougal.
And I'm Gelb.
And we're going to talk a bit about games and stuff. So, recent news, recent for us. I don't know how recent it'll be for people listening, but UK Games Expo just happened only last week, which, for those of you who don't know, is one of the biggest games conventions that I know of for sure in Birmingham, with something like 65,000 people there over the 3 days, seeing a whole bunch of games, new games that have just come out or just about to come out, as well as a whole bunch of stuff that's been there for ages, with lots of things like media, press releases about stuff, lots of tournaments happening, and loads of other stuff. So UK Games Expo is a huge convention, which is there for new board games, other board games, older board games, a whole bunch of retailers themselves who are selling board games. And it's a great place for a retailer because you get to see new games before they are released, or at least while they're still in prototyping stage for a lot of them. You get to see games that are just released and see people's response to them. And you get to learn those games yourself. It's a little bit different for us because we have the kind of play space in the shop. So I want to know how those games play as much as anything else, so that I could teach them myself if we end up getting it in. So it's great to see a lot of new stuff coming out, but it's also good to see other retailers and meet people who are directly involved with making the games. It's where we get a lot of our direct distribution from. So it's not just going to a big distribution company, but I can go individually to the people who make the games and go, great, I want to give you money because I think your game is great. And that often is such a beneficial thing emotionally as much as anything else, to be able to go to these people and say you enjoy their work, which I think is what it comes down to from developer side as well, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the getting access to people who don't know you, right? And also consumers and players is one part of it. You know, people go there to play games. Some people go there to just play games all weekend. Some people go there to buy games. So you are in the same room, sometimes next door to other, professional publishers and independent games or mainstream games. So that's super valuable. There are also publishers that are around, and so there's some events that you can go to, and publishers will be walking around checking out the games. There's also manufacturers that are there. So I had meetings with a few manufacturers on because of quotes that I had gotten from a game, and also our pickleball manufacturer. So they actually came and we chatted about the release. So it's actually a good way to efficiently, put names to faces, but also, go out and find new ones. Like, for example, especially connected to the space, I went around to a whole bunch of manufacturers and just got all their sample packs so that we can, and told them about us, so that maybe they'll send us meeples or send us paraphernalia that we can have available for designers. So it's like it's an all-in-one industry / consumer show, and so over the course of a weekend, it is really short, but it allows you just to get a lot of stuff done.
Yeah, it's not as commercial, I think, as a lot of other conventions that I've been to. When it comes to like comic book or MGM or something like that, they tend to be, everyone's just trying to sell stuff as much as possible. I always feel like board game conventions, because it's reliant upon, well, maybe you sit down and play some of these games. It feels more like it's like a holiday within board games themselves. Yeah. You are there. It's an experience that is separate from your regular life. You go there, you spend 3 days, you're absolutely shattered, and yet you feel like it could have lasted. Yes. You want it to last another week, You can't physically do another week because 3 days is enough, and you're very, very tired from walking around and seeing everything and carrying a whole bunch of boxes. But it is a truly different experience. And I would always say to people that if you get a chance to go to a convention, definitely check out the UK Games Expo, because it is one of those ones that is big, but not insanely big. there is enough time to see everything. But there is also so much going on that it can be really hard to see everything, which I think is that kind of perfect balance, as opposed to walking around a convention, seeing everything within the first kind of couple of hours and then being like, well, what do I do for the rest of the day? Yeah. Or the other thing where it's so big that there's no chance you're going to see everything. So you have to do all your pre-planning beforehand, and you're running from place to place just to make sure that you get a chance to get something, and then it's too busy anyway and you can't get to see it. So I think UK Games Expo is definitely one that I wouldn't hesitate to recommend for people to go to.
It's also surprisingly like well organized for being a mostly volunteer team.
Yeah.
It definitely comes across as, it's very reasonably priced in terms of when you're exhibiting. So all in all, it's just a good, there are a bunch of good eggs and folks I think should check it out.
It's a really just good vibe.
Yeah.
Everyone is there to have fun. It's part of the reason why I love the shop in the same way, is because people only go there to enjoy themselves. Sure. No one is there to kick off or be upset about anything. Everyone's just there to enjoy themselves. So what were you up to while you were at the UK Games Expo?
So we exhibited, and we have one game that's out now, or it's recently come out, and so that's Hot Shot Pickleball. So we were demoing that but we also had copies available to sell, and then I had two games that I was demoing to build the email list, get some feedback, and all that good stuff. But there were also only two of us, so it was two of us, and we had three games, and it was a bit manic. It was quite hectic, but it was better than last year, because also exhibited last year. But then I was in a cast, an air
vicious
boot.
Pickleball based accident.
Pickleball, doing a lot for the craft. Sacrificing a lot for the craft. So the game that was out is Hot Shot Pickleball. And this time last year, I had recently ruptured my Achilles playing the actual sport of pickleball. First and only time playing. It was hilarious and also awful, but mostly hilarious. And so it was very hectic. It was, I think they said uniques when they sent the email out, 42,000 unique visitors, 72,000 visitors over the course of a weekend. So it's a lot of people. And last year, that 42,000 number was 35,000. And they were expecting 25,000 last year. So it's not only grown, but it's grown quite quickly. Yeah. And so we were just kind of all over the place with trying to capture folks. And very nicely, quite a few other people that we know were exhibiting as well. So that was quite nice to go around. So obviously Judson was there with TEDx Games, and we were right around the corner from Sean, Allies or Enemies. And he and his wife were demoing their upcoming game. Tom, Pivot, an exclamation point is needed. They were, he was exhibiting. The Eerie Idol guys were of course there. So there were quite a few folks that either were, came down from Scotland or Scotland affiliated that were there, which was really nice.
Yeah, I just remember coming round to see you at your stall and being able to say maybe a couple of words before you had to scramble to another game to teach another group of people kind of the games that were going. But it looked like your tables were full most of the time with people actually sitting and playing games, which is, I think, a great thing that conventions can do for new game creators or even like established game creators to have people actually come and play their games, not just once, but consistently during a day. I think when it comes to playtesting and things like that, often feedback is delayed, or you can have one person play at one time and then it's another couple of weeks until you get another playtest. When it comes to having your game run all day from 9 a.m. all the way through till 6 o'clock, it is shattering, really tiring to do, but must be really valuable for some of the information that you get from it.
Yeah. I think there's two parts. When you're exhibiting, you're seeing what people think of the game when you demo it or allow them to play it. That's also actually really interesting, the difference between pickleball, for example, Hot Shot Pickleball, and some of these other ones. Pickleball is a 20-minute game, so you can start playing a point and you'll get the experience very quickly. But if you really wanted to sit there and play the whole game, you could do that. Whereas the other two games are a little bit more involved. And so it was a little bit harder to quickly get people aware of how it works. Like I can't sit down and just play it with you like I could with pickleball in that instant. So that was really interesting from our signups, for example, which I'm happy to dig into if anybody's really wants to geek out about that. But the second thing that it does is that it forces you to have to pitch it quickly. Because I was standing at the corner trying to convince somebody to come and look at it. So I had to figure out what is the language that someone might say, oh yeah, that's me, and actually be willing to come over and probably thinking that I'm trying to sell them something. And it's a delayed sale. I don't want to sell you it right now, but I wanted to show it to you and maybe you'll back it. So it gets you practicing that super quick. And it also the third thing is being able just to describe the game. Like I got my little spiel down very, very quickly. So now I can explain both Aster and One Stone, the other two games, really, really fast, which is nice. And so it's the kind of thing that you could totally do on your own, but having people there and having them stare at you, waiting for you to finish, means that you have to make sure it's snappy enough and interesting enough for people to still wait until the end. So there's different people do different things in terms of like how they organize demos. Like Tom, for example, his game Pivot is like a Euro game, and so they were focused on demos and organized demos. So you'd come and you'd sign up for a time and they would just be running games back to back to back, full games or close to full games. And so that was his strategy. And it was great for him because like, I think they ran, let's say they ran 14 games, but that means that 14 games of 4 or 5 people and everyone who stayed and played would then probably become a fan. I didn't do that, and I don't know if that was a good call or not. Like I did some demos. I did like 3 or 4 demos a day for one, and so people got a taste of it, but they didn't play the full game from zero to finished. So it's interesting to just see how different people do it.
Yeah, it's a weird, almost like marketing side of things to get that spiel down, see if people are interested. I know as a consumer of games and a common presence in conventions, just what it takes to get you attracted and interested in a game, and then to actually sit down and go, well, I have thousands of games to look at. What is going to take the time out of the time that I could be walking around seeing other things to sit down and spend some of that valuable time to actually play something? Yeah. Of course, you want to play lots of things, but you're very limited. And when something is sold out of spaces, it's really upsetting if it's one of those things that you really, really want to play. So having that spiel down is really, really important for sure. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it in conventions. I think it's very different depending on the game that you're doing. I know that when I was running demos for stuff, it was trying to encapsulate the game as quickly as possible and not run a full game as much as I could. So trying to get people on a kind of handicapped starting block so they're a bit further into the game, they can see the mechanics and how they're working together, or a quick 15-minute run through, right, this is what you're going to be doing every turn, so they get that into their head. People who do want to sit down and play a full game though, I think it's really important to have that space for them, because those are the people who are like, I really want to see how this is going to go. Yeah. And when they get that full game under their belt, they're like, wow, that's what I want more than anything else. Do
you think that, just both from your experience, not only demoing, but also as a retailer watching, do you think that it depends the type of game that you're bringing as to whether or not running full sessions of the game versus abbreviated demos matters? So for example, something like Tom's game or the Eerie Idle guys and Old King's Crown. They're obviously very different games, but they're gamers' games. They're board game fans' games. You are going to be sitting there for a while, and you are going to get into it. The games that I have, for example, are they're lighter, I guess, if you want to call it that, or more maybe more gateway games in terms of not complexity, but like overall
accessibility.
Yeah, sure. And so, if I'm trying to cater with One Stone, for example, if you like Ticket to Ride, if you like Carcassonne, if you like, some of those, really, great popular standard games, I kind of want to talk to you. Do those people, not those people, a lot of people, fall under that category, but is it important for, if you're trying to make a mass market or more mass market game, to still do those full playthroughs?
I think with those lighter weight games, because they are easier to explain and easier to get into, you actually need to do less with it. So because it's an instant thing, there was a fantastic game being shown called Big Daft Noise War. And basically you got 2 cards that were different things, and then you had to make the noise of those cards. So lazy typewriter. And then you had to make that noise. Other people had to make that noise as well. Whoever did the best noise wins. Not a huge amount to that game, but you know what? Instantly you could go, I know why that is fun. You did not have to play a full game of 20 rounds and see who got the most points of that game to really get what it was going for. So I think with the smaller games with a smaller hook, you don't have to spend as much time. When it comes to a big game, particularly at a larger price point, I think I saw Galactic Cruise by Dranda Games being shown off, which is a huge box, really massive game, really fantastic. A big fan of it. Ian O'Toole's artwork is spectacular for one, but that was being sat down and played, and that's a hour and a half, 2 hours, possibly, probably close to the hour and a half. I think they got the demos under because they had someone running and teaching the game. But it's a decent sized game. But if you sit down for 10 minutes in that game, you don't really get the feel of the game, right? You can appreciate possibly what you do on a turn and what those mechanics are, but not how they make you feel as much as anything. So I would say, weirdly enough, with the bigger games, you do need to spend more time on them. Not explaining the rules, but having people play. It's a hard compromise to take away some of the time you could have talking to everyone who comes around and going, this is what this game is about. This is great. I saw Judson, obviously.
They have a system.
They have a system where they get people sitting down, they have sign-ups, they have all of those sorts of things, so that there's always someone who's able to talk to people about the game, and there's a couple of people running the games that they have, which is brilliant because those games do take a little bit longer, even though they did a shortened version of it. But that, I think, is also very, very useful with these bigger games, is having some sort of quick start, having something where people can be in the middle of it, or at least have an earlier finishing point so that they can see what things work and why they work the way that they have been designed.
The effect of having active demos and people lurking is also a thing that I observed, quite a bit. Like when people were demoing my game or one of my games, quite a few people felt comfortable just to come and stand and watch. And
that's just because of what you were wearing. Of course, I mean, that giant pickle outfit was
wearing.
Oh yeah, that's it. It was just the giant pickle outfit.
I know.
And it was only the top half. It was very worrying.
It was very hot in there. No. But, it was very warm. But aside from that, I went really, really great with the burger. But the effect that actually, I don't know what you want to call it, passive observing has, as well as something that I didn't quite get beforehand. Someone watching other people. This happened with pickleball quite a bit, which was weird. People walked up, they watched other people playing the game. They were like, that looks fun, I'm just going to buy it. And that happened like multiple times. So the idea that, you have to sit down, you have to play it in order to know that you like it. You have to see it being played, or if you have to see yourself, experience it maybe to find it interesting. But while people were demoing one stone, random people would walk up, look at it, watch for a while, take a slip, and then So that was curious. But as I didn't get to a lot of the show, as a retailer, someone who did go around not only for pleasure, but because you have to be up on everything, on all the trends. What were your biggest surprises, or what were some of the games that maybe you weren't necessarily either aware of or that surprised you?
Yeah, I mean, really interesting question. So I sit in a very weird place with it. I used to go to conventions purely for joy and spend all my time there doing a whole bunch of stuff. And those times I was much more likely to sit down and play something. Yeah. I think now, because I am trying to be aware of everything, I don't get as much chance to sit down and try things. And I think there's a good portion of people who were coming up to your stall and buying the game. If you don't have the time to sit down and play it, but you can see someone sitting down and playing, and you can work out briefly what that is, then well, I'll get that. I don't have the time to kind of sit here and go for it. It's a relatively cheap game, and I can see I would have fun with it. There's loads of people there who are there with 600 quid going, I will spend 600 quid on board games. Yeah. This is my one time a year I'm going to do it. So they will do that. So for me, it was really interesting seeing the things that people were buying, not in a commercial way, but through the amount that people were buying that have obviously been out for a while. So things like seeing a lot of Barcelona going around, which is a fantastic, beautiful game. But knowing that has already been out for a year, it's not like a crazy new release. But the things that really excited me. Okay, so there's a few things, which is Lord of the Rings, Fate of the Fellowship. This is made by the person who made Pandemic, which is a very well-known and very popular co-op game. This has been about since way before the pandemic, and the amount of people who come into the shop saying, I started playing Pandemic and then the pandemic happened, this is my fault, is quite extreme. But it's very, very popular. And Fate of the Fellowship is expanded upon that formula, but still sits in that co-op Pandemic side of things, where you are running through Lord of the Rings with the tiniest, cutest, it sounds really strange to say, tiniest, cutest orc meeples with little axes. They're tiny wooden red orcs, and they are maybe 5-6 millimeters tall. I spoke to the designer, who's a lovely person, and he went, I wanted you to be able to have 20 of these in your palm at the same time and just drop them on the board. So it's really cool to see that. There's some cool flying Nazgul, which are on little kind of almost old style plastic stands that used to have for like miniatures or Airfix models that are all individually modeled and at different heights so that you can squeeze all the Nazgul together on little bits and move them around the board. And it plays really nicely. Moving your characters around and playing that game is beautiful. It takes up a lot of table space, but in a good way that is that thing of, right, we're going to sit down and play this game tonight. It's not a filler game you're going to take out. It's like, no, we're going to, we're going to get rid of the ring. It's going to happen. Can't just put it in the bin. It's going in lava. But look, there's tiny, cute orcs in the way. So that has been really exciting. And that one was actually pre-released at the show. So it's not technically... Well, it will be out hopefully by the time you listen to this, but will be just out, whereas it was released a bit early to be bought only at the UK Games Expo. Cool. So I saw carts of that being driven around by people just to refill the stands, which is awesome. Really good game. Speaking of Lord of the Rings things, there's another one coming up by Reiner Knizia. Here's our Reiner Knizia mention for this show, which is a really, really clever roll and write game called Hobbit, There and Back Again, which is great. You're rolling dice. You have your own little adventure book, which you have a whiteboard marker for. You'll roll the dice and then you'll all draft and pick which dice you're going to use to mark off down on your little adventure. And every dice does different things. Maybe you go further along the path. Maybe you're using swords for combat, various things. But each each page of the adventure book is a completely different quest and has completely different mechanics going on dependent on those dice that have been rolled. The art style is truly incredible as well. It's absolutely beautiful. And that one should be out in a few months. So that was very exciting. I am a Lord of the Rings fan.
No, really?
But not the biggest Lord of the Rings fan. So as a games fan, I was so excited to see both of those creators coming and bringing out a really, really interesting versions of something I thought was quite tapped out with the Lord of the Rings sort of theme within gaming, but it's just got bigger and bigger. Outside of that, there is a fantastic company who I met for the first time called Jelly Jelly Games, which is not only a brilliant name, but they're lovely people who are bringing games over from Japan. And as someone who brought games over from Japan myself earlier this year, with the idea of, well, I'm never going to see these games in English properly produced, seeing them at the convention and go, oh my goodness, they're in English, properly produced, was one of the most amazing experiences. So things like Ubibo, which is a co-op holding sticks in between your fingers with other people and then balancing balls on them game, which I know is a very common type of game. Yeah, was great. They have another game called Charge and Spark and another game called Bahamut Dispute that are two tiny little two-player games with as few cards and as few pieces as possible, but they play brilliantly because they're all about the other person and what they are doing and how you're reading the other person as they're doing it. But they play in kind of 10 to 15 minutes. So they're both really, really delightful. So being able to see them and bring them back was actually amazing. Another one I would mention was Llamascape Games has done a Don Quixote game, which is actually excellent. I was very, very surprised. It comes in a little tiny book with a magnet to keep the book, not in a book, but a fake book.
It looks like a book, yeah.
It looks like a book.
Yeah.
Thank you. And it's really interesting because it actually relies upon doing what the book does. So it's got Don Quixote going on adventures. You're choosing the adventures they're going on, but different things can happen. There could be romance. There could be tragedy. There could be him falling on his ass. There's various different things, and you're essentially making these tracks of love and tragedy and comedy, moving up a certain track so that these cards are worth more at the end of the game. You have your own little secret scoring thing, but you're influencing those by playing cards to influence the positive or negative side of the adventure that is being played. And that is a goal that you're going for your secret scoring, but every card you play also has its own color, and those are going to be scored at the end based on how far down these tracks they've gone. So you're trying to not have other people get their missions successfully by learning what they're playing and what they want and what they don't want, and then playing against them, but also being aware of the cards that you are playing yourself. And there's little extra abilities that go on with it as well. So it's one of these super clean, like only 25, 30-minute games, but it's really nice and doing something very different. And the next game that they're working on is Moby Dick. So they are very much in the
classics.
Let's do classics and let's do them as good games with wonderful game design. So that really surprised me as a smaller scale thing. Another great one that I saw was Power Vacuum. Power Vacuum.
At Hoover's?
Amazingly, yes. Your communist leader, the Hoover or Vacuum, has died, and you are now other electrical appliances. I don't know what to say. That really hurt.
It was a windbag.
That if you can hear the laughter in the background, that is the editor. First time we've actually got to laugh, so it's worked out.
You a bit.
It did. Oh, stop it! Stop it! I can't have this. Die, son. Anyway, sorry. It's just getting worse. Your communist leader Hoover has died, and you are an electrical appliance trying to take over by playing a little trick-taking game and using the. Taking things as either victory points or moving them around to change your own prestige for your own character. It's really, really clever. It plays really nice. It has some of the most beautiful art, and the little expandable, like extra premium token set makes you build a tiny statue for yourself, which is when your statue is complete, you've won the game. It's actually really, really cool. Yeah, so there was lots of little games that I saw from smaller publishers. Those were the ones that always excite me most. This is because personally, I've seen a lot of the big things already. I know that they're coming out with bigger distributors, so I'm already aware of them. It was great seeing things like Earthborn Rangers being sold by Naylor Games, which is fantastic, but I was already knew of it, so it didn't excite me in quite the same way that a lot of these other smaller ones do. The Star Wars Battle of Hoth looks fantastic. That looks like it's going to play really, really well. And Old King's Crown by Eerie Idle Games always makes a big splash with the art that's there and is wonderful to see. I'd also like to chime in for Chromo Arcana, a gorgeous game that takes the deck building side out of a Magic the Gathering style sort of dueling card game, which is not only beautiful, but really, really well designed. And they're working on a new game, which is it is rules complete, and they're just finalizing a few other things called Small Folk, which I played and is really good, where you're building these nice little combos of different characters. The best thing about this game, though, which was the bit that made me really, really excited for it, is that you're playing down your cards to have different things happen, or you're moving a piece further on in your little quest thing to have other things gathered based upon cards that you have. All these cards kind of combo off each other. But the thing you really want is a lovely little kind of part of every card, I think it was in pink, which is if you get another couple of characters that are focused on what that person wants, then you make them happy. And if you make them happy, you get a big bonus, and they get a little happiness token on them. And at the end of the game, we played a full game of it. At the end of the game that we played, I tied with another player, but I had made more characters happy, and therefore I won the game. And it's this wonderfully positive thing that could be I'm playing this card and this hits this and this hits this. But there's no negativity in it. Yeah. You're not taking anything away from other people. The most you are is drafting something that someone else might want. Sure. But your turns are surprisingly quick despite the chaining and combos you can have happen, but you build towards that. And then you have this wonderful thing, and I played this card. Oh, I've got a little tree centaur out, and now my my wonderful mermaid is incredibly happy. Isn't that great? And it just feels really positive to play. So that was from Rock Nest Games, and they are a really, really great studio. So it was great to see that. But it's one of those things of having so many different games there. It's really hard to focus down on the one or two things that you enjoy. I feel like I'm giving some sort of Oscars speech, and I'm like, oh, and also thank you to so and I've forgotten people on the list. Forest Folk by Ludus Vulpus is brilliant. There's so many things that I have forgotten to mention, but yeah, there was loads and loads of interesting things.
Also interesting this year, I know that I was talking to someone from the UK Games team, and they were saying, I was asking about some changes since last year. So, for example, we were pretty sure that the aisles had been widened a little bit.
Yeah.
Because last year it was just chock-a-blocked. And they said, yeah, they had. And so they expanded it. They gave everyone a little bit more space. And also quite a few of the larger American companies didn't come this year because of the tariffs. So I remember last year, like Lorcana was everywhere. And I didn't see a huge Disney, setup, but it didn't feel like you were missing anything. Like I until he said, until he noted that, I wasn't really focusing, obviously, because I wasn't walking around. But it did actually feel they changed it a little bit up from last year because of a scheduling issue. That if anybody wants to know that, it's quite fun to hear about. But anyway, that's like inside. If you want to know inside baseball about UK Games and the drama that they had with the NEC, that's funny. But it actually felt quite. It felt relatively navigable this year.
Yeah, it was definitely having wider aisles, I guess, was a huge benefit. The fact that wheelchairs could go through and it wasn't being packed and difficult to actually maneuver was really good. I found it quite difficult because it was all on one level and it was 3 or 4 halls that were all attached together. So it became one huge space.
Yeah.
So my biggest problem was I'd sit down and I would play something and then I would stand up and I go, I have no idea where I am. I don't even know where the exit is. This could be a huge problem if anything happens. But after 3 days of going around, I did get a bit more of a way to kind of maneuver around. There's some things hanging from the ceiling that were really useful. But yeah, there was so many games.
Yeah.
It's not too many because there are 3 days.
Yeah.
But I did I think, get to see almost everything that was there without getting involved in the painting tournament that Duncan Rhodes was doing, without getting involved in the Warcry tournament or the Star Wars Unlimited tournament or there's so many things that are being played. And there's a huge board games library as well, which they also have at their open tables. So there's a bunch of friends I have who were there who went and basically spent the whole weekend just sitting and playing games from the open gaming thing because that was what they were there for and they got to see each other. And I think that's a really good thing that conventions can do as well. If you are not demoing 3 games at once with only 2 people on your stall.
Yeah, exactly.
Next year, is this our call for volunteers for next year to help you out on your stall?
Yeah, if anybody likes the idea of demoing games, we will definitely welcome you with open arms.
But you do have to wear a pickle suit. That is one.
It's non-negotiable. We do have 3 different sizes.
Oh,
if that helps. A small pickle, a cornichon.
A cornichon. That's
a stewcumber size. And getting a kimchi one made.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I can't
absolutely. Wait. Yeah. We spend our money well.
Amazing. So UK Games Expo, so many things happening in that, but that was not the only things that happened with me and you over the past. That sounded like we got married or something. Just to explain to everyone, we are currently recording in the Ancient Robot Workshop, which we did record a previous episode in, but we didn't really talk about what it was. So I don't think we've ever really explained things on the podcast about what the Ancient Robot Workshop is.
I feel like in terms of backstory, it went from us talking about doing the podcast and then thinking, this could grow community to opening up this co-working community space in a matter of months.
Yeah, I think it was maybe 3.5 months from inception to now we actually have a physical space.
Yeah.
So to explain to people, the Ancient Robot Workshop is not directly attached to Ancient Robot Games, but it is in some ways, it is a co-working space for board game design and board game designers, as well as artists who want to work in games, graphic designers, all sorts of people from RPGs through board games or community-based gaming sides of things. The hope is to have things like game jams and things like that in this space as much as possible. If you are interested, feel free to head to the website, which is ancientrobotworkshop.co.uk. But essentially, we knew a lot of game designers. I knew a lot of game designers. I constantly had game designers coming into the shop, and I did a bit of work within games design for a while before opening the shop. And it was great to see so many cool games and having some playtest nights at the shop and things like that. But the real interesting thing for me was that very few of them knew each other.
Yeah.
So trying to get them to meet, it sounds like I was forcing them all into a room.
Yeah, we're getting married first, and now we're getting forced married.
This
you know,
is really worrying.
It's sounding a bit cultish, but it's all right.
I mean,
okay. You look the part.
Thanks so much. I shouldn't wear these robes while we're doing the thing.
It's all right. They're flattering figure.
Thanks very much.
Right.
Yeah, so wanted a space where people could meet, people could playtest regularly and prototype regularly as well. So we decided that the workshop would be a good idea to have regular playtesting and prototyping nights, as well as networking nights between artists and designers and everyone who wants to work on games, to be able to meet each other. Because part of the joy of making games is the creativity and collaboration side. It is really hard to do it all on your own, and that includes with playtests and everything else. So simply having someone else to be there working on something creative alongside you, I think, is a really, really important thing. So we thought we'd open up the space for that. So it is just up from the shop in Edinburgh. And yeah, it ran pretty quickly from deciding to do it.
Yeah. Why not do it? And so it's been done. It's been done.
It was super easy.
No, it was not super easy. But yeah, so I mean, in general, out there, if you're interested in, if you've ever thought about designing games, whether that's board games, RPGs, maybe you have an idea for writing an RPG, regardless of if you're doing it full time or you do it as a hobby or you want to get into it a little bit more, we're trying to design the space so that it's approachable for folks, across the spectrum of how you're getting involved with the process. So we have the space available for people to come and work during the day, and then also in the evening, multiple nights. We'll end up doing multiple nights a week, focusing on different things, so that people who maybe work during the day can come into the evening for prototyping, playtesting, RPG, run-throughs, what have you. So yeah, please, if anyone's out there that likes the idea and has a suggestion as well, please get in touch, because we're slowly working our way through trying to design something that's the best fit for the community. So would love your input.
Yeah, I think building the community is a big thing for us here in Edinburgh, because there are so many game designers.
Yeah.
And also maybe there'll be more games coming out of this place in the future. That's the real interesting thing for me, is to see people at ground zero going, I don't know how to do this. I know I have an idea, or I have a dream that I want to do, and then being able to see it right from inception and then help it build towards a true release for a board game.
Yeah, and I also love the fact that you also some publishers, distributors through your work with the shop and other things, and so just trying to make the most of the connections that different people have to benefit the communities. It's a good. Someone described it actually at UK Games when I was describing it. They're like, so it's kind of like a central clubhouse for folks who are into game design. I thought that's actually nice. That's a nice way of putting it, but. This is a process that can be, by its very nature, solitary, and people like, you might like that, but that doesn't mean that you aren't then stimulated by other people working on similar things. So just as you were saying, you working on your creative endeavor, sitting in the same room with someone else working on their own creative endeavor, there's something that happens, and there's that little energy, little spark of excitement. So I just wanted to foster that as much as possible. And selfishly, there's no reason why Nottingham should be the capital of games in the UK.
You really have something against Nottingham.
Really have. I've never been there. I'm sure it's a lovely place, but
it's. I think there's Games Workshop. There's a whole bunch of miniature stuff for sure. But having board game design and RPG design move a little bit further north, I think will be a really, really great thing, because more creativity, the better. And it's really fun to work with other people.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've been working on something and then gone, right, I think this is it. Perfect. Yes. And then brought it in front of other folk and gone, oh no, that's horribly broken. And someone else has one sentence, one small idea, and it's changed everything. And it's been like, no, wait, that's what I wanted to do. I just didn't have that in my brain at the time. It's really, really great to see. So hopefully we'll have more and more work going on in the workshop. And feel free to get involved if you like. Check us out. Yeah, so we have been busy with all of that. It is now up and running. We decided that we should do a soft launch week before the UK Games Expo and properly launch the week after the UK Games Expo. So it's been
perfect timing.
Perfect time. But does feel like this is the season of games, I think, with a lot of conventions and things happening at the moment. We're looking forward to the next few coming up, which will be Gen Con and Essen. Aircon as well, which are Aircon is a little smaller, but Gen Con is a big one in America, and Essen is even bigger in Germany. So there'll be always some interesting things to see out of those places. But they are way too big for me personally. Are you planning on going to any of these?
I feel like, so not Gen Con, but I feel like Essen sounds like an experience that one should go through, I guess. And I'm very bad at networking and figuring out where to meet different people from a game design and publishing perspective. People have said Essen is good for that. I might put myself through it. There's no way that I'm going to exhibit at it. I mean, it's all booked up anyway. I am going to a pickleball expo in Florida at the end of the month.
I could hear the excitement in your...
I am actually excited. I'm more it's more trepidatious than anything else. But yeah, so trying the whole, well, if I'm the only board game there, maybe, is that a good thing or not? So,
and then you go there and it's the Fellowship is out in front of you as well, and all the
didn't realize
Lord of the Rings.
Pickleball fans, everybody's there to buy Lord of the Rings stuff
and board games.
Everything, every single booth
board.
Board game.
Pickleball's one course that's in it, and everything else is board games. Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Whatever. We'll see.
But yeah, that has been a crazy busy month and a whole lot of fun. It's been a pleasure, as always, Gail. Thank you all for listening. As always, I have been Dougal.
And I still remain to be Yelp.
And this has been edited by Ryan Scott. Thank you for joining us.